Okay, so I've started the recording and let's start our class. And you seem to have questions about midterm and assignment, etc. So those questions, let's take them up after the class, okay? So once the class time is finished, we'll stop the class, basically stop the recording, and then we can discuss anything that you guys want about the midterm or whatever. So let us start the class then. Okay, so hold your questions till after the class. After the class. Okay, so what were we discussing last time? I think we were discussing those const objects and const functions. Okay, we were saying that passing arguments by copy can be expensive for very large objects. If your objects are very large, they take up a lot of memory, then copying them would be very expensive. It will slow down your performance of the program, because if you make too many function calls, basically for every function call, you'll be copying those large objects from one part of the memory to another, and memory access is in general very slow compared to the processor speed. So this will slow down your whole program. Okay? So when you have large objects like these, instead of passing them by copy or passing them by value, we would like them to pass them by reference. Okay, so instead of passing them by copy, we'll pass them by reference. The advantage of passing by reference is that there will be no copy. Okay? Passing by reference does not make a local copy of the object, but rather you are passed the reference to the original object. Okay, so we get the reference to an original object. Basically, reference, as you guys know, is just another name for the original object. So there is no copying of the original object. Right? So this avoids copying of objects, and for very large objects, that is very, very beneficial in terms of speed. So that's why we pass objects by reference to functions. The other thing that this raises is that when we pass objects by reference, we are basically passing the original object. Okay, so this raises a scenario where basically we can easily corrupt our original object. Okay, even if we do not intend to modify the original object by inside the function, we are still passing it by reference to avoid copying, and this accidentally we might modify such an object and we might corrupt therefore the original object. So to avoid this error, whenever you pass an object by reference to a function that you do not intend to modify inside the function, you pass it by const reference, not by normal reference, but you pass it by const reference. Okay, so const reference has the good thing that it will basically avoid the copy, but still it will make the object access to object inside the function. It will make it read-only access. Okay? So inside the function, if we accidentally try to modify that object, the compiler will detect it that we are trying to modify a read-only object, and it will give us an error. Okay, so now when large objects, we pass them by reference and we pass them by const reference. Third is when we have an object which is passed by const reference, or in general a const object, we cannot call any function, normal functions on that object. Okay, so on const objects, the compiler has to make sure that you are not modifying that object inside the function that you're calling on that object. So therefore, the compiler forbids you to let you call normal functions on those const objects. So those const objects can only call const functions. Const functions are those functions which have been declared const inside the class in their definition, and the property of const function is that they do not modify the variables of the object in which they are defined, for which they are called. So const functions basically guarantee you that calling this function will never modify the object for which it is being called. So on const objects, we can only call const functions. Okay, so in the last class, we studied how we can declare a function const. Okay, const function, you cannot basically change the any variable inside that class. So that is what we have discussed in the last class. Is it clear? Any questions regarding const objects and const functions? Okay, so regarding R value and L value, basically they originated from the fact that assignment operator has two sides, the left side and the right side. So the values that you can use on the left side of the assignment operator, these are called L values. Okay, and there are other values that basically you use on the right side of the assignment operator and that you cannot use on the left side of the assignment operator, and these values are called R values. So the major distinguishing factor between L values and R values is that R values have a memory location associated with them. Okay, so you can store values inside. Sorry, L values have a memory location associated. Store values inside an L value. Okay, so that's why we, on the left side of the assignment operator, we always require an L value. So the assignments I have discussed, assignments will be discussed after the class. So if you can please hold your horses till then. So R values are those types of values which basically do not have a memory location associated with them. Okay, so you cannot store values inside an R value. To give you an example, let me share my screen with you guys. No, not this one, wrong screen. Okay, so if my complex, I think it was called 2, so if I get to main, so here if I basically do this and A is equal to 5, okay, so AA is equal to 6. Now this on line number 77 we have declared this variable AA. Now this variable has a memory location associated with this variable. Okay, so we can use it on the left side of the assignment operator, and basically we can store values in this memory location which is associated with this variable AA. So that's why AA is an L value. But let's take this value 5 or 6. These are literal, integer literals. Okay, they do not have any memory location associated with them. Okay, so I cannot say 6 is equal to 9. Okay, so 6 is just a literal. It's not a memory location where I can store this value 9. Okay, so 6 is not an L value. It is an R value. Okay, so the opposite of L value is R value. Okay, so another basically criteria is that L values are those values for whom you can take their address. Okay? I can take address of A. Okay, I can take address of A, but I cannot take address of 9. It has no memory location associated with it, so it has no concept of address associated with it. Okay, so that's a basic definition of L value and R value. L values have a memory location associated with them in which you can store values. R values do not have a memory location associated with them. L values, you can take address of L values. You cannot take, sorry, address of R values. Binary of 6 is stored in A. Yeah, the value of 6 is stored in A, in the memory location associated with A. Okay. So we'll come back to L values and R values in a short while again, but the basic definition should be clear by now. Okay, so if that's clear, then let's move on to today's topic. We are discussing operator overloading. We have been discussing it for too long, but I think today's class will be the last class that we'll spend on operator overloading. So we have basically overloaded different kinds of operators. We have overloaded binary operators, we have overloaded unary operators, and we have basically overloaded array subscript operator, etc. Wait a minute, we haven't studied static inheritance or other stuff. Please keep your comments and questions relevant to the topic that we are discussing. We will study everything eventually at their own time, but right now kindly keep your questions to the topic that we are discussing. So we studied binary operators, unary operators, and array subscript operator. There is one operator that we have not studied yet, which is also sorry, very important, is basically the assignment operator. Assignment operator, as you guys know, is also this equal to sign. It's also an operator. Okay. So here, what we are doing is we are basically, let's say we have declared this C1, C2, C3, and here we are trying to, this C1 is equal to C2. Okay, so what will be the value of C2 that will be displayed here? Sorry, C1. We declared C1, C2 here. Okay, and then we basically, let us just remove this stuff. Let's remove this also. So what will the value of C1, which will be displayed here? Or 5. Okay, good. So let's basically verify it. For 5, you see. So the assignment operator is working correctly for R-type my complex 2. Okay, and this is working, but this is despite the fact that we have not defined this assignment operator for our type my complex. Okay, so far that's a code that we have already seen in the last classes, and if you guys remember, we have not defined the assignment operator for this class so far. Okay, so if for other operators we have to define the basically operators that we want to use with our class, we have to redefine them or overload them for our new class user defined type. Why is the assignment operator working by default? You see, plus was not working by default for type my complex. We had to redefine it. Similarly, plus, similarly other operators. But assignment operator is working for this type my complex. Why do you guys think it is working? No, copy constructor is something different from the assignment operator. We'll discuss it. It's not copy constructor. It's assignment operator. Copy constructor is used to construct a new object. Assignment operator, on left side of the assignment operator, we have an existing object. Okay? So yes, the answer, as I said, is that for every user-defined type, this assignment operator is generated by the compiler by default. Okay, so the assignment operator is generated by default, and what does this default assignment operator do? What is its working? Just like if you don't define any constructor, it will generate a default constructor for you. And if you don't define any copy constructor, the compiler will generate a default copy constructor for you. And as we have not defined an assignment operator for our user-defined class, the compiler has generated a default assignment operator for us. Okay? So what does this default assignment operator do? Yes, so it does copy data from one to another, but the key thing is, as Mohammad Farid said, member-wise assignment. Just like the default copy constructor copies the data in the new object from the old object member-wise. Similarly, the default assignment operator also does a member-wise copy of data from the object on the right side to the object on the left-hand side. Okay. So in this case, the member-wise copy, it will copy the real part of C2 into real part of C1 and the imaginary part of C2 into imaginary part of C1. Okay, so and that's basically what we wanted. So here the default copy constructor is good, and we do not need to define our own copy constructor. Is this thing clear? The compiler generated a default assignment operator for us, which did member-wise copy of data from C2 to C1. And in this case, this default copy constructor is good for us, and we do not need to define our own copy constructor. No, not copy constructor. This default assignment operator is enough for us, and we do not need to define our own assignment operator. Now, just like copy constructor, this default member-wise copy, it is good in 90% of the cases. For some other cases, this default assignment operator is not enough. It's just like the copy constructor case. Can you guys guess an example where this default assignment operator will not suffice? It will not be enough. Very good. Just like copy constructor, if you have dynamically allocated memory in your in your class, in that case, member-wise copy, you will be storing the address of that dynamically allocated memory inside the class, right? A pointer. So a member-wise copy, the default assignment operator, it will basically copy the address or the value of the pointer from the source object to the destination object. Okay, so it will make a shallow copy, as you guys say. And this is something that we do not want. Okay, very good. In case of having pointers as members, this is only one case. There can be other cases also. But when you have pointers which are pointing to dynamically allocated memory, in that case, default assignment operator is not enough for us. So to see an example, let us go back to our that string class. To string 3.cpp my string 3.cpp. Here we have this dynamically allocated memory. Okay, so we basically assign a memory and store its address of this dynamically allocated memory inside this pointer str. So in this case, again, we have not defined a assignment operator. So if we basically make a S2 okay, so here we can do this show string S2. Okay, so we have declared two strings, and just to see that we can show their values, we are printing them. So let's print them on separate lines. Okay, so far we have not done any assignment or copying. We are just printing the values to see that both strings are really storing different values. Oh, sorry, I had that thing. String 3. I'll just basically comment these for the moment. Copy constructor. This destructor also. Okay. Okay, you see hello and bye. And why are there new lines? So show is doing an endl. Okay, so show is already doing an endl, so we don't need to do endl here. Okay, good. So two strings S1 and S2 both are storing different values. Now let's go and copy it. S1 is equal to S2. Okay, so we are basically copying S1 into S2. And here, let's see. Okay, so S1, which you're storing hello, is also now storing the value of S2. And just to verify that this is a member-wise copy and not a totally separate copy, both basically are pointing to the sharing using pointers to point to the same memory location. What we can do is there a way to change some? No, we have not defined a way to change. So what we can do is we can perhaps define operator here. Okay, and if it is, what we can do is we can basically return a reference to the index character here. So we are basically returning the location of that character, and we are returning it by reference so that we can use it. So once that's done, we can basically go there. So S1 is a copy of S2. Now the semantics of copy, if we change S2, if S1 and S2 are two separate copies, then changing S2 would not affect S1. So we are changing the value of S2, and let's see what are the values displayed for S1 and S2. You see, so S1 and S2 are not two separate copies. Okay, so they are basically, excuse me, just storing two separate pointers to refer to the same memory location. Okay, so those two member pointers, str of S1 and str of S2, they are storing the address of the same memory location, which contains the value by or bh, and now bhe. Okay, so this copy, I mean default assignment operator, it did not make a separate copy of S2, but rather pointed S1 to the same location of S2, S2's value, because it was only a member by member copy. So how can we cure this thing? How can we basically okay, so let me read your comments. Munfar, I did not understand your question. Do normal pointers defined in stack also require deep copy? I mean, if you copy just a pointer, it will just copy the value of the pointer. If that is enough for you, that's good. Otherwise, if you also wanted to make a separate copy of the memory which is being pointed to by that pointer, in that case, you will have to define a copy assignment operator or copy constructor to make a deep copy. Yeah, so standard pointers, if you copy a pointer to another pointer, that's a shallow copy. Okay, so how can we solve this problem? We'll have to define our own assignment operator, and for that assignment operator, we will have to we'll come to the return type later. Let us first, okay, for the moment, let's keep the return type void. Operator, and again, assignment operator, since it's an operator symbol, so we'll use this operator symbol, which is this, and then okay, so assignment operator is a binary operator or unary operator? I mean, the question I want to ask is, how many arguments would this function take? It's a member function, right? One, very good. Okay, so assignment operator is a binary operator. It has two operands, one to the left-hand side and the other to the right-hand side. Okay, so if this was declared as a non-member function, then it would take two operands. But here we're defining it as a member function, so it would take only one operand, okay? Because it will be called. This function will be called for the left-hand operand. Okay? The left-hand operand's objects, this function, assignment operator function, will be called, and the right-hand side, whose copy we are going to make, will be passed to it as an argument. Okay, so again, it's an assignment operator. So the right hand side will be of object my string, so we'll pass it an object of my string, and usually you pass it by reference. Okay. And since we are passing it as reference, so the semantics of copy are such that this copying S2 should not change S2. Okay, so to avoid accidentally changing S2, because we are passing it as a reference, we make it a const reference. Okay. So there we are. So this S1 is equal to S2. This will call S1 objects this operator equal to function, and S2 will be passed to this function as a const reference. Okay. So now what shall we do? What will be the code of this function? What shall this function do? Create a new object. Why do you want to create a new object? Both objects already exist. It's an assignment. It's not an initialization. In copy constructor, we basically created a new object. I mean, why do you want to create a new object of type myString? The left-hand side and the right-hand side objects already exist. I still don't understand why do we want to create a new object of type myString. Both objects already exist. We have access to the member variables of both objects. We just need to copy data of one object to the other object, data from the right hand side object to the left hand side object. Okay, so as Mohammad Faris said, we will pass the value of object we want to copy to both will be independent. There, I did not understand this sentence. You can unmute and speak directly. But okay, for a meanwhile, we'll go with Mohammad Faris strategy. Okay, you can't speak. Okay, so let's go with Mohammad Faris strategy and we'll see how we can modify this. I mean, if you still feel that we need to create an object, then we can discuss it. So Mohammad Faris proposes this function will be called for the S1 object. Okay, so he proposed S1 objects members are directly accessible to this function. Okay, so str member, the pointer for S1 is directly accessible. So this is the destination where we will copy, and we will copy from rhs.str. Okay, so this will copy the string from the left hand side, right hand side operand to the pointer of right hand side. Now there is a slight problem here in this implementation. Who can tell me what is the problem in this implementation? Both objects exist, but what can be the problem? str needs to be allocated memory, yes, but str has already allocated memory. Remember, S1 was created and S2 were created. Both were assigned strings like hello and bye. So S1's str has already an allocated memory, but the thing is that the size of those two memories may not be equal. Okay, so as in this case, one string is shorter than the other. So we don't know which string is shorter or which is longer. Okay, so it might be that the S1 string is shorter and S2 string is longer. So in that case, we will be copying memory from S2 to S1 from a larger memory into a shorter memory. Okay, and in this case, we will overwrite the beyond the memory that is available in S1. Okay? So the correct way here would be that to allocate the properly sized memory in S1 and then copy the data. Okay, so size we do not, strlen can be used to calculate the size. We don't have to keep the size separately here. So what we have to do is first we have to see if str has something or not. Okay, so if str already contains memory, then basically we have to first deallocate that memory. The existing, The existing memory might not be enough for us, so we deallocate it, and then we allocate a properly sized memory for us. Okay, and the size would be the data that we need to copy. That size is that we need for our newly allocated memory. Okay, so we'll basically strlen rhs.str, okay, and then +1 for the null character. Okay, so we need to allocate this much memory, a new okay, and after this, of course, you will check whether it is like null or not, whether you succeeded or not. Okay, so this I'll leave to you guys, that if there is an error, exit. But we were discussing that we have to delete the old memory because it's not enough. New allocate the properly sized memory, and then we can basically copy data from right hand side to left hand side of it. Okay, so that's about it. So let's just see whether it's working or not. You see, now when we change S2, S1 did not change because S1 is now a separate copy, has its own separate memory where it has copied the string from S2, and therefore now it's a totally separate copy, and now changing S2 won't affect S1. Okay, is it clear? The assignment operator, when is the default assignment operator not enough, and when do we need to like create our own assignment operator? And if we had to create our own assignment operator, how would we write that operator so that it creates a totally separate copy, independent from the original object? No. It's because whenever we create a string object, we have this myString object. It can either be created using this constructor or this constructor, copy constructor, or this default constructor. Okay. R type, it can be created only using these three constructors. So it will either have a valid string copied from, passed to it during construction, or copied from existing object, or if it was created using a default constructor, then it would basically contain a null pointer. The pointer will be null. Okay, so that's why we are checking for null pointer. Upload this code to GitHub. I've been already uploading all these codes to GitHub. Why do you say that you find nothing? It's inside those folders, week 1, week 2, week 3. When you have S1 is equal to default constructor is called. No, S1 is equal to S2, it's an assignment operator. Assignment operator is not creating a new object, so constructor will not be called. We are just like doing it in case S1 was created using default constructor. Wait a minute, let me GitHub code. Yeah, if you go to week 7, there are codes inside it. Go inside week 8, there are codes inside it. I don't know why you guys are saying that you can't see the codes. On GitHub, inside the folders, there are codes until week 8. I've been uploading them regularly. There's no folder named week 7. There is a folder called week 7 and there are codes. Are you checking on the internet or in your local copy somewhere? All codes are available on internet. If you have downloaded them, you need to update the download. Go on internet, you will find the codes. Okay, now coming back to this. Okay, so I hope assignment operator is clear. So one thing is this assignment operator, it works for S1 is equal to S2. But I think Usman Tahir, you basically asked a question some time ago saying what is operator chaining. Okay. So operator chaining is basically when you use the same operator in an expression multiple times, like contiguously or in a chain. For example, you can have this like S3 equal to so if ID S2 is equal to S3. So we can do this with integers, right? With integers, we can change the assignment operator. Similarly, I think we saw in the last couple of weeks, we changed the plus operator, binary plus operator also, we can chain it. So assignment operator also, we can chain it. And I think you guys have used this kind of expression in with integers. So what should be the value of S1, which should be printed here? Uzair, let's take it up after the class. Is it about the okay, I don't understand it, but let's take it out to class. Okay, so let's verify this thing. The thing is, you know, this will be executed one by one. First, one assignment would be done, and then the second assignment. There are two assignment operators. So in the plus operator, we saw that the associativity of the plus operator was from left to right. First, the leftmost plus operator will be evaluated, and then the result will be applied to the operator on the right of it, and then it will continue going towards right. In case of the assignment operator, the associativity is opposite from right to left, okay? Which means first of all this rightmost assignment operator will be evaluated, and then the result will be applied to the second assignment operator here. Okay, so first this will be called, and then this will be applied. So first of all, let me compile it to see whether it compiles or not, because in the current scenario, okay, so on the left and the right side of the assignment operator should have same type. So here operator equal to, it is saying that the types are not matching. The types are myString and void. Okay. So what happens is when this assignment operator is evaluated, it assigns the value of S3 to S2, and then it returns void. Okay. So this expression is replaced by the return value, which is void. So that's why here the assignment operator, the second assignment operator, on the left hand side it has myString, and on the right hand side it would have void. Okay? So that's why it's saying that the both types, they are basically not matching correctly, myString and void. So how can we basically correct this so that we can chain our assignment operator? Remember, the current implementation of the assignment operator, it was working for only this S1 is equal to S2. It was working. But if we want to chain our assignment operator, in that case, we'll have to modify this assignment operator. Okay. And how should we modify this assignment operator? What should we change? No, it does not concatenate. It will basically do what we tell it to do. So we are telling it to make a copy, not to concatenate. So does function have to return a reference to type myString? Yes. So the function has to return a type of, because here for the second operator, this one, on the left we have myString, and on the right also we want a myString. So that's why this function assignment operator, it has to return myString instead of void. So we'll have to return myString instead of void. So we change this myString. But which myString should we return? If this function is being called for S2 and S3, which of these two should be returned by this expression, S2 or S3? So basically, just to move quickly, okay, S2, good, S2. But do we have access to S2 in this function operator equal to? We have access to S3 in the form of RHS, but do we have access to S2 inside the call to this function? Do we have access to the left hand operand? No, S3, basically we have to return S2, but the thing is, how will we access S2 inside this function? This function is being called for S2. So how can we access the object of S2? No, str is not the whole object S2. str is the member of one member of that object. So we have to return the whole object. This object has only one member, but another object can have 10 members. So we don't want to return one member of the object. We have to return the whole object. How do we do that? So if you guys remember, return this, very good. Okay, but this is not an object. This is the address of that object. We have to return not the address. If you see the return type, we have not to return the address. We have to return the object that is being pointed to by that address. The object that is being pointed to by this. So using this, how can we access the object that is being pointed to by this? Okay, I think we can do this like this to make things quicker. I'll answer this question myself, and we can return not this, but the object that is being pointed to by this, and we can dereference this to access the object that is being pointed to by this. Okay, so now this should basically chain the assignment operator, and here what we can have is, first this will be called, the value of S3 will be assigned to S2, and this will return S2. So this, again, the second time this operand will be called, which will have S2 returned on the right hand side. So it will assign the value of S2, the new value of S2 to S1. Okay, so the value of S3 will be now assigned to S1. So now if we run this, okay, so now we can chain this. The value of S3 was assigned to S2, and then S2 was returned, and the value of S2 was assigned to S1. Okay, so that's why S1 finally gets the value of S3. Now we are able to basically chain this assignment operator by this implementation. Is it good? No, this arrow str would have returned again the member. Okay? And similarly, static this arrow str, it would have returned, dereferenced the str pointer, not the this pointer. Okay? So it would have returned the first character pointed to by str. So we have to return the whole object, not what is inside that object. That's why we return static this. Yes, str is basically the address of the memory, the string inside the object. We have to return the whole object, and it's this pointer that contains the address of the whole object. So we dereference this. What's the name of this topic? This topic is called operator overloading, and we are, to be more specific, we are overloading the assignment operator. So this will return S2. No. Yeah, this will, static this is S2. Okay, so if we return static this, we are returning S2. Okay. Okay, good. If that's good, then there is one other small thing to do. The thing is, in integers, I can do like this. While we have been z is equal to y is equal to x. Okay, so this is like, that's what we have done. Okay, so now we are able to produce the functionality of line number 68. Okay, line number 70 is exactly line number 78, so this is good. But the thing is, in default C++, we can do like this also. Or even we can do it like this, like 33. Or let us do x. Let's do 33. Let me do first like this. Okay, and then, so what will be the output of line number 69 and line number 71? No, all the three values. What will be the values? 3, 3, 3 for both of them. Okay, so let me execute this. 333. Oh, sorry. I think I mean, stupid. I am so stupid. Okay, so I reinitialize them, then reassign them. So what will be the values of these two expressions? Now they are line number 68 and 74. So let me compile it. So see, the first is 333 and the other is 353. And why is that? Because, so here it is clear, right? Here it's okay. The value of x is assigned to y, and then the value of y is returned, and that value of y is assigned to z. Here the thing is, first this is done, okay, because you have brackets, so brackets define the precedence which will go first. So first the leftmost assignment is done. The value of y is assigned to z. Okay, so z also becomes 5, and this basically returns z. This returns z, and this returns z as an L value because it's on the left hand side. So it's an L value of z, which is then assigned the value of x. Okay, so the value of y does not change. The value of z is assigned 2 times. First the value of y, and then the value of x. That's why when we print this, it prints 353. Okay, is it clear? $71 $353, very good. I am like changing screen after, not very quickly, but whenever I say I'm going to compile, only then I change screen. Okay, so the thing is, our current implementation of this assignment operator, it will not let us do this. For example, if I do like this, okay, so we'll see why it will not allow us to do this. But first, let us verify. By. Why did it return by? So you see this S1 is hello, S2 is by, and S3 is world. So this worked. The value of S2 was assigned to S1, but this second assignment did not work. Why do you guys think it did not work? It should have, if it wanted to work like line number 73, it should have printed world, right? First value of S2 should have been assigned to S1, and then the value of S3 should have been assigned to S1. So here we are basically assigning the value of S2 to S1, and then this assignment operator, it will return S1, but the value of S3 is not being assigned to S1. So this assignment operator basically, yeah, okay, that's the answer. So I'll just wait for you guys to try to guess why. No, the precedence things is always defined, okay? Yeah, it's triumphs in precedence, but the thing is, still it's not working correctly. No, the brackets are not part of the operating difference. Brackets are just for, the simple parentheses in the expression. They are just telling it which assignment operator to perform first. Just like any mathematical expression, you can have parentheses for precedence. They are just forcing the first operation to be performed first, the first assignment operator. So the question you guys have to answer is, why is the value of S1 not being changed in the second assignment operator? The first assignment operator is working, the second one is not working. So there's something on the left hand side of the second assignment operator which is causing problem. What will be returned by this first assignment operator? Okay, so are we returning, yes, S1. So are we returning, no, not S3. The first assignment operator, the one inside the brackets, it will be called for S1. S2 will be passed as an argument. And then, as you guys are saying, it's returning S1. So is it returning S1 itself, or is it returning a copy of S1? No, why S1 itself? Because S1 is like steric, this is S1. So when you return steric this, if you see the return type, the return type says that we are returning by value. Okay, and just like pass by value, a copy is made. Returning by value also makes a copy of the object. Okay, so we are not returning S1 itself, we are returning a value of S1 as copy. Is this concept clear? I mean, got it because you are hungry and you want to finish it early, or? Is it clear that currently the assignment operator is returning a copy of S1? Okay, so the second assignment operator, it will assign the value of S3 to the copy of S1, not S1 itself. But we wrote my string. No, we did not write my string ampersand in the assignment operator overloading here. The return type is my string. It's not a reference to my string. Okay. So yes, the answer is that we should make it my string ampersand. Yes, if you want to make it work on the left hand side of the assignment operator, we have to make it a reference, and then our assignment operator will work fully correctly. And now you see, instead of printing the value of S2, it is printing the value of S3. Okay. So first value of S2 is assigned to S1, and then first the value of S2 is assigned to S1, and then basically the first assignment operator, it returns the reference to S1 object. Okay, so the reference to S1 object will be received here, and that reference is a reference to L value, and then that L value will be used to the left of the second assignment operator, which is here. And then the second assignment operator, it will assign the value of S3 to the L value of S1. Okay. Now the implementation of the assignment operator is complete. Yes, I'll upload it on YouTube, but kindly please answer the questions now. Is it clear, the implementation of assignment operator? Let me go up. And this is our assignment operator. Line number 39 to line number 48. Yeah, I think you can put this lecture on repeat on YouTube. So try focusing on when do we return by value and when do we have to return a reference. So it is important, if you want to chain different operators, usually you return things by reference. Any questions about the assignment operator? Five is equal to 6 is an error. Student S1 is equal to S2. I'm assuming it's S2. Without the ampersand return type, also give an error. Okay, so this is a very important question. These values that are returned by the function, this return by value, these are R values and not L values. Okay, so return type, return values are R values. Okay, remember L values, R values. So the things that are returned are R values, which means that normally we should not be able to take their addresses. So let me see if we can take the address of this. If we return it by, so right now it's returning a reference. So let's see if we can take its address. Okay, yes, this we can. And if we were returning it by value, I remove the ampersand here. Okay. So here we are basically taking the address of temporary. So these values that are returned, the object that was returned, it was a copy of S1, and that copy is a temporary object. So C++ in the background, it creates many times, it creates temporary objects that we are not able to see. So this was a question that I always forget your name. Hamza Akhtar Siddiqui had asked, and I had told him that we will discuss it in the class, but so far we haven't had time, so maybe we'll try to do it in next class. So these values that are returned are temporary values, or temporary objects, and temporary objects are usually R values. Okay, so R values, we cannot take their addresses. So Mohammad Farah, you have a very valid question that if this, let me go back to your question. Yes, so if 5 is equal to 6 is not allowed, where 5 on the left hand side is an R value, then why was it working for this S1 is equal to S2 is equal to S3 when we were returning by copy? So this I'll have to see and I'll get back to you. So temporaries are R values, and R values are usually not We cannot modify them usually. They are, I mean, temporary values, they exist only during that expression. Okay, once that expression is finished, they're destroyed. Here, this whole sentence, I mean, this statement is an expression. So temporary value will exist only until existence of this expression. And once this statement completes, like this statement, S1 is equal to S2, this will generate a temporary value, which will be passed to the second assignment operator. And once this expression finishes, that temporary value will be destroyed. Okay, we never get to see those temporary variables. So we'll continue this discussion in the next class. Meanwhile, I'll see why this was not giving a compiler error. Okay. So let me stop this video recording and